pack your bags and book that flight to leave Africa, it is crucial for you to assess if moving abroad or moving to the diaspora is the right choice for you. And that's what we want to talk about in today's video. We are going to be looking at some groups of people who shouldn't leave Africa just yet. So you want to stay to the very end of this video so that you can learn more. If you're seeing my face for the first time, welcome, Karibu. My name is Eva Mtali. And on this channel, we talk mostly about relocation abroad. We talk about moving abroad. We talk about traveling, whether it's for leisure, for pleasure, for business, for school, for work, permanently or temporarily. So this is where you want to stay if any of those topics sound exciting to you. Let me know in the comments section below. Can you hear me? We are testing this microphone and sometimes it decides to just act up. So without much further ado, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you. Let me know in the comment section below, where are you watching me from? So don't leave Africa if any of the following apply to you. And it might sound like a joke, but this is really serious, guys, you know. So number one, if you are already doing well in Africa, my advice for you would be just stay behind, because guys, things have changed. It is not the America we used to know. It is no longer the UK we used to know, the Europe we used to know. Times are basically tough everywhere. The economic crisis is everywhere. So if you are already doing well in your home country, if you already have a thriving career or a thriving business in Africa, moving abroad might not be necessary. So for instance, if you are already a successful entrepreneur, or let's say you are a professional and you have built a strong network here in the continent, then I would advise you to just be content with your achievement, because you might find a lot of challenges relocating, and especially when the challenges far outweigh the benefits. So let's say, for example, I am a medical doctor in Kenya. I already have my, what do they call them? Like patients that regularly come to me. I already have hospitals that I work with. And then I decide to move to the US. I'm gonna literally start from scratch. But let's say if I am a nurse and I decide to move to the US, tomorrow I'm literally just going to pick up my career and get it rolling. So again, it depends on what career path are you currently at. And so for some careers, like let's say if I am in the computer industry, in the data analytics, then I am more likely to thrive outside of my country. If I am not yet thriving, than if, let's say, I was a medical doctor. But again, you will find, for example, we have Google offices right here in Nairobi. We have Microsoft offices right here in Nairobi. We have these major companies, Amazon here in Nairobi. So if I was a software engineer, I am gonna have my money go a longer way for me if I'm working for Google right here in Kenya than if I was working for Google in San Francisco, for example. So put that in mind. If you're already doing well in Africa, in your home country, I would encourage you to just stay put, okay? Now we have another group of people who are, you know, they have like this, what we call a know-it-all attitude. So if you believe that you are already know everything in the world and there's nothing more for you to learn, you're not open to learning and adapting to new systems, new lives, new way of seeing things, then the diaspora might not be for you. So you will realize very quickly that countries outside of Africa have different systems, different cultures, different way of doing things. And if you have a rigid mindset, you have a rigid attitude, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to adjust and thrive in a new environment. So for example, you have to make sure that you are open, whether that is to eating different kinds of foods, different ways of people speaking, different ways of how people approach life, different ways of how people just carry themselves around. So if that is not something that you are open for, then you will have a very, very difficult time, okay? Another group of people that should just stay at home are people with drug and alcohol problems, and especially if you are looking to move to the US. So first of all, moving to a new country won't automatically resolve your drug or alcohol problems. That is number one. However, if let's say, I know like in Kenya, for example, we have all these alcohol blow and all these kind of things. So let's say if I was driving and then I was drunken and then the alcohol blow showed my alcohol content to be very high, I could just bribe the police and they would let me continue driving drunk and probably cause an accident to some innocent party. But in the US, for example, if I was caught drunken driving, I will be arrested and I'll be taken to prison. I know people who have been in prison for 4 years, 5 years for drunken driving. It is a very, very serious offense. And because you can get away with it in your country does not mean you will get away with it abroad. So other than the fact that just moving abroad won't necessarily solve your alcohol and drug abuse problem, it's going to get you in trouble very, very quickly, and it could derail you forever. As much as they say the American prisons are not as bad as the Kenyan prisons, believe you me, I know people who have been in American prisons and they have never been the same, okay? So in addition to that, the stress of adapting to a new environment is more likely than not to worsen your already existing drug and alcohol problems. And you probably have witnessed this. If you are on TikTok, look at some of the, and I'm not even being biased, but a lot of the women in the diaspora, in Europe especially, you will see how they behave on the internet once they get drunk. And mostly is because of just the stress of adapting to a new environment. So actually, it is more likely to get worse than better for you. So it is crucial for you to seek help and address these issues before you consider moving abroad. That is just my advice for you. And if you're gonna like work in places like cruise ships and the like, they're actually gonna test you for drugs and alcohol. And if you do not meet the minimum threshold, then they will not even hire you, okay? And then the other people who should try and avoid moving to the diaspora are people who just have issues following rules. If you have trouble following simple rules, just stay at home, because you are going to face significant problems in your new country. Those countries, like I keep giving the example of something as basic as throwing trash. Like, kids are born knowing that you don't just put all your trash together. You go and separate them. Like, there's 5 different kinds of trash. There's a different one for bottles. There's a different bin for paper. There's a different bin for plastic. There's a different bin for organics, like the food and the stuff. So people already just grow up knowing that there are systems and laws to be followed. Something as basic as honesty. I've talked about that in the channel. So for us in Africa, it's very normal or common for me to lie to you straight on my face. I mean, our president lies all the time. When he's not lying, he is flying. Like, that's basically, like, it's very normal for people to lie in Africa. Like, you're not gonna be like killed because you lied. But in the Western world, people are so trusting to the extent that they'll believe whatever you tell them. Like, it's a culture of honesty. So if, let's say, for example, you just have trouble following basic rules, like, let's say if your job is between 9 to 5 and you just can't show up at 9 and you just want to lie, you're going to have a lot of trouble. So be prepared. If you have trouble following these laws in your country, that where you were born, it's just going to be a serious issue, because non-compliance is considered such a big deal. And in some cases, you can even be deported. It is that serious, guys. So if you have trouble following rules, then just stay at home. Another group of people related to the ones who cannot follow rules are people who cannot just use basic common sense. So here we're talking about basic things like you're driving and you don't indicate, or you're driving, like let's say you're driving and you want to turn left, you don't indicate, you just swipe and go. Basic things like you are driving and there's a zebra crossing and you decide to just cross over. Basic things like you're driving and you are at intersection of a junction and there's usually clear lights, like this is where you stop and wait for the lights to turn, but you decide to go and block, like what I see our Kenyan drivers doing. So like basic common sense. If you do not have basic common sense on basic issues like those, like something as simple as being clean, Something as simple as respecting boundaries, something, those basic common sense issues that people have problems with, and I see them and I just roll my eyes here in Africa. So if you're struggling with those everyday situations, you're going to find it a very, very difficult and challenging abroad, especially in the Western countries. So if, let's say, you can't read a simple map. So for example, you don't know where West is and East is. Those basic things they teach us in primary geography, like reading directions, and you prefer to ask people. I mean, people in the West mind their business. And that's why you'll find if it's a train station, it will be marked. If it's a road, it will be marked. So basic things like get your Google Maps, find your direction, those basic common sense things that for us look like work and they're common sense things. If you struggle with those, then you're going to really have a tough time in the Western world. So just stay home and try and learn to navigate basic common sense issues. The other group of people that should just stay at home are people with violent behavior. So if you have a history of violence, and especially gender-based violence, my friend, just stay in your home country, because relocating is going to be very problematic for you. There, here in Africa, I have seen cases whereby, let's say, a man hits his wife or his girlfriend, or a wife hits her husband, and maybe the neighbors call the police, or they go to the police station, and they're like, oh, those are domestic issues, something like that. Or even have cases where a boyfriend unalives their wife. We've seen so many, their girlfriends. We've seen so many of such cases, especially in Kenya, where people get unalived by people who claimed to love them. And those cases just disappear into thin air. Like all the cases we've had this year and last year, I'm yet to hear where even one person is behind bars. So if you're that kind of person who is so quick to be violent, you're abusive and all this, most of these countries have very strict laws against violence. And such behavior can lead to very, very serious legal consequences, including jail, life in prison, and deportation. And I'm not even exaggerating. Okay? So make sure that you sort out those issues in your life before you think of even moving abroad. Related to this are people with very rigid traditional gender roles. Like those who believe that, oh, I am the man of the house and my job is just to, I don't know, whatever, like I can't change diapers, I can't cook. Or if you're that lady who believes I am the woman of the house and my only job is to give birth in this house, those traditional gender roles. So if you adhere to strict those traditional gender roles, then you may want to just stay back in Africa, because you might really struggle in these egalitarian societies where gender roles are more fluid. And it's going to be very, very difficult for you to adapt to the new cultural and gender norms of equality. So for example, if you go to the US, the work-life balance is almost non-existent. So especially if you have kids, between you and your spouse, one of you is going to be working at night and the other one is going to be working during the day, so that when one is at work, one is supervising the kids. When one is supervising the kids, one is at work. Because again, unlike in Africa, where you can just leave your kids there and go wherever you're going and come back, you cannot do that. They're going to take away your kids. And related to that, if you are the kind of person who cannot manage their life without a housemaid, without a house manager, without a nanny, extensive domestic help, just stay back home, okay? Because moving to the diaspora or to the Western world, such services are less common and they are super duper expensive, guys. That's why even the former president of the US, Obama himself, could not afford a nanny. And he had to ask his mother to come and help him with the kids. That's how serious it is. So if you're that kind of person, I know there are women who cannot survive without a house girl. Sundays, when the house girls go on off, it's like the world literally falls apart. So if you're that kind of a person and you're not rich, just stay back home. Because I know, like in Kenya, if you have like a basic salary, you can actually afford 2 nannies if you want. I have a personal chef. That's how affordable it is to find help in Kenya. But in the diaspora, it's going to be almost impossible unless you're super, super duper rich. It's almost impossible. Very few people can afford nannies. Daycare is expensive. So you're going to have to take care of your kids by yourself. So if you don't love kids and you have them, I don't know how you're going to live in the diaspora, because you're literally stuck to the hip with your kids. You can't leave them. You can't leave them at the neighbors. You can't leave them at the house. You have to be literally taking care of them. Another group of people that should just stay back home are people who lack flexibility. So flexibility is very, very crucial when you are moving to a new environment, not just the diaspora, to the Western world. So if you're that kind of person who's so rigid and unwilling to embrace change, you might find it very, very difficult to adjust to new cultures, lifestyles, and any unexpected situations that might happen once you move to the new country. And related to this is people who are, I don't know whether to call it overly opinionated. You know, you have a very, very strong opinion about everything, and you're not open to other people's perspectives. You might struggle to integrate in a new community. So, for example, we have significant issues like LGBTQI, for example. You know, there's individuals and their lifestyles. So most of the Western world where you are looking to move to is a more inclusive society. And basically, people are not judged for being who they are or who they choose to be. So if you're that kind of a person who has issues with something as basic as somebody's private part and what they do with it and how they use it, you're going to have a lot of conflicts and difficulties. And you might rub a lot of people the wrong way, which could have legal implications. You could be arrested, you could be jailed, you could be deported for discrimination. So acceptance and respect for diversity are very, very important for you to have a positive experience abroad. And it is not uncommon in the Western world. You're going to find men wearing skirts, wearing dresses with heels, lipstick, walking on the street. You're going to find 2 men kissing. You're going to find 2 men running a family. They are husband and they have kids. You're going to find a wife and her wife and they have kids and they move around with them. So if you're not the kind of person who is open to inclusivity and you cannot mind your business, just stay home. You're going to have a better life at home. We also have another group who just have trouble with weather. I can tell you for free. Those who've been following me long enough, you know the main reason, even after having traveled to more than 100 countries, the reason why I settled for Mother Africa is because of weather. That is one of the reasons I have settled for Mother Africa. Our weather, guys. If there's anything God gave us, it's our weather. Perfect weather. Just the right temperature for everything. That's why we even have crops. We can grow stuff year in, year out. Unlike in the West, where we have the 4 seasons, and you only have like 3 months in a year during spring to actually grow anything. 9 months of the year, in summer, it is super duper hot. In the winter, it is super, super cold. You barely see the sun. For us, we have the sun almost every single day. So if you can't handle extreme temperatures, extreme weather conditions, whether it's harsh winters or scorching summers, moving to a country with such climate is going to be a great, great challenge for you. So make sure you're prepared for the weather conditions of your new home and you are open to embrace it, because, as I always say, guys, there is nothing like bad weather. There is only bad clothing. So if you have the right clothing, then you shouldn't have any problem with the weather. Now, this other group of people is a little contentious. Is it contentious? Contentious? This other group of people, if I was in their shoes, I would not bother moving abroad. These are our senior citizens. Yeah. I feel in life, there is a stage in life whereby if you haven't done some things, I think it's okay to let it pass. And so if, let's say, you're retired and set in your ways, you're set in your patterns in life, there are going to be some challenges for you as a senior citizen when you move abroad. So we are talking about adapting to the new climate, the new cultural norms, the new systems, the new ways of doing things. And like personally, I think the challenges of moving abroad as a senior citizen, like in your 60s, in your 70s, the challenges far outweigh the benefits. So it's important for you to consider whether the move will genuinely enhance your quality of life. Like, don't just move because, okay, now a green card has shown up, I'm 62, I'm going. Or my child has filed for me, I'm 67, I'm going to America. Like, I think it's important for people to actually sit down and ask themselves, is it really, really a case of the benefits outweighing the challenges? Yeah. Because, I mean, by the time I'm in my 60s, I just want to relax and wait for my sunset years to roll by. I don't think that's a time to start having a roller coaster of emotions in terms of, I don't know, difference in how people do things, see things. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to come in the comments and tell me about their grandmothers who moved to America at the age of 80. Of course, there's going to be outliers, but we are talking about, just general, yeah? So guys, those are some of the things I think I've covered. Oh yeah, another group. Hey, and this one especially is those who are over-reliant on support systems. And here I'm talking about if you're that type of a lady, for example, who you go on a work trip for 3 days and you call, or even not even the work trip, like you even go to the office and you're calling your nanny 20 times in a day because you want to find out if your child is ready, is okay. So why then did you even leave your child with that nanny if you don't trust her? And then we have this other group of people, you cannot, like if you spent a day without speaking to your daughter or your son or your mom or your dad, you feel like the world is going to end. So what I'm trying to say, if you are addicted to your support system, then I think you should just stay at home in Kenya or Africa, wherever, and deal with your support system, call each other, visit each other, because once you move abroad, it's no longer business as usual. So first of all, we are dealing with time zone issues. Second of all, maybe when you're just starting up, you're doing multiple jobs. And remember, as I said, there's no nannies. So you're also the one taking care of the kid. You're exhausted most of the time. So there's really no time to be, still hanging out with people and looking for friends. And then like in the diaspora, you don't just show up in people's houses like we do here. And ilikuwa ninapita tu, I decided to pass by. No, you go by appointment. So if you're the kind of person who gets, you get your high by interacting, being in the presence of other people, you could actually end up into depression because there isn't an equally strong support system in the diaspora like we have back home here in Kenya, where we have a lot of very idle people. We have even just our work system, like we work Monday to Friday, and then almost everybody is free on Saturday and Sunday. So you can plan all your chamas around that. You can plan all your whatever. But like in the US, people are literally working around the clock. Here, most of us, we live in, what do they call it? In a 12-hour economy. So by like 6 o'clock, everybody has got back to their houses. But you'll find like in the US, people are working around the clock. So probably your friend worked night shift, you worked during the day. So it's going to be very difficult for you guys to find yourselves free at the same time. So if you're that kind of a person who cannot survive without their support system, please stay home near to your support system. Otherwise, you're going to end up depressed. You're going to end up in a situation whereby you're struggling mentally, especially. So moving to the diaspora is a significant decision that requires careful planning, careful analysis, careful consideration. So if any of these points resonate with you, it might be wise, and I would encourage you to just reassess your readiness for such a move, yeah? Because you don't want to move from the fire to they say from the frying pan to the fire. So Boncase, hi, thank you so much. Esther, I'm glad that you're learning a lot from this. And thank you so much, guys. So I hope that you found this video to be helpful. If so, please do give it a thumbs up, and it's free, guys. I keep saying it's free to like the videos, and it motivates me, helps with the algorithms, to share it to a lot more people. And if you haven't subscribed, we are on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Please do yourself a favor and subscribe for more content like this. And thank you for watching. I will see you on the next one. Bye.